This is the One Man Gang. You're listening to Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast.
Hey guys, this is Eric Young, and you're listening to Booking the Territory.
This is Booking the Territory, a pro wrestling podcast hosted by Mike Mills, Hardbody Harper from Wildcat Sports and Entertainment, and the mentally irregular Doc Turner. This podcast is a mix of your topics and thoughts in the world of pro wrestling, along with interviews and discussions with current independent stars and your favorite stars from the past. And now, here's your host, Mike Mills.
Welcome back to Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast for a special edition on this Friday, May the 6th, 2016. There was some news in the wrestling world of note that we wanted to discuss on the program. We would have waited until Tuesday, and I'm sure Doc and Hardbody Harper and I will discuss on our normal Tuesday episode the releases that have occurred. But what happened was I had been working to get Michael Tarver, a.k.a. Tyrone Evans, back on the show. You may have remembered, if you're a long-time listener of Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast, that I had on Michael Tarver on our show sometime back in September of 2015, I believe it was. If you're interested in listening to that two-part episode, check out his episodes on our podcast feed that you are tuned into now. It was a really good discussion that we had. He talked a lot about John Cena and some of the things that went on behind the scenes when he was in the Nexus, along with the Gregory Irons situation that he seems to be so popular for. Everyone wants to give him a hard time about, undeservedly so. But Michael Tarver was on the show, and we had a great discussion back then. Well, when news came down to today of the release, little did I know that, or the releases by WWE, little did I know that Michael Tarver and I, who had scheduled to talk today on Friday, we were going to record an episode for the future to help promote his music venture that he's got going on. Little did I know that the WWE would decide to release a couple of people that Michael Tarver knows fairly well and worked with in the Nexus. Not only are we talking about people like Wade Barrett, but Michael Tarver also knows Ryback, which he was not released, but we know the news about Ryback on May the 2nd, where he left Raw reportedly and then put out a statement on his Twitter account and on his blog feed, I think it was. So it just so happens that the timing was perfect, and I said, you know what, rather than hold on to this interview for another Tuesday when we do our normal release, I would go ahead and release it today. So it's a special episode where we are talking to Michael Tarver and Tyrone Evans about the Ryback situation, since he knew Ryback from his time in the Nexus, Alex Riley, Santino Marella, Cameron, Hornswoggle, El Torito, and Zeb Coulter being released. If you're checking us out for the very first time, please subscribe to our show. It is Booking the Territory wherever you get your podcast from, whether that's iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Podcast Addict, you name it, we are on there. We would appreciate you subscribing to the show. That way you get our automatic weekly episodes. This past week we had on Eric Young, who has just signed with or is now working with WWE in the on the NXT brand. I have had on the One Man Gang in the past. Legendary referee, professional wrestling referee James Beard from the World Class Days has been on the podcast, just to name a few. We've had on Donovan Dijak from Ring of Honor and the Beer City Bruiser. So go back and check out some of our older episodes. Hey, give us a follow, facebook.com/booking the territory. And follow us on Twitter at BTT_podcast. If you want to follow me, I'm at Mike504Saints. But more than anything, follow the podcast feed at BTT_podcast and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast from. So that's about it. That's all I got. I don't want to hold you any longer. Michael Tarver starts off with talking about his music venture for the first few minutes of our discussion. And then we get into all of the information, or all of the news from today with the releases in the WWE and his thoughts on Ryback and the guys, not Ryback being released, but his thoughts on Ryback and also the people that he knows of that did get released, some of which he knew very well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's off the cuff or off the edition episode of Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast. Hey, we should be good now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I had to reset this thing. Every now and then, I don't know why this computers are like this, but it's like a plug-in that goes into Skype that records my stuff, and
right.
Every now and then it don't work. So hey, whatever.
Right,
then you got to reset it. So
That's all
hey,
good.
so what's been up, man?
Oh man, just Traveling, man, a little bit, and really, really training hard, trying to get ready for a couple competitions I got coming up. But I mean, that's really it.
You we're recording right now, just so you know.
It's all good.
You so you pretty much just doing the powerlifting, or you still working some shows too, some wrestling shows?
Still wrestling, but mainly powerlifting. I tried to make an effort to kind of get a little more into wrestling this year, as far as really, really, trying to work more shows, but it's just not a lot going on, and it's really, and most of the work is just a very small set of people and groups, and it's just if you're not in those groups,
Yeah.
you're just not going to get booked, which it is what it is. My love affair with the wrestling business is pretty much done anyway, so I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, I know. I know. Last time we talked, I mean, it's getting close to a year now, but
Yeah,
it's yeah. The further you get away from it, it's kind of like something you always have a bit of a tie to it, but at the same time, it's like you said, your love affair is moving on to other things. So hey, I did have some wrestling related questions I wanted to ask you,
of course, yeah,
but no, we gonna get to non-wrestling stuff first because it seems like every day you dropping a new album. I'm being funny, but
yeah.
but go ahead and talk to the people who tune into our show, man. What you got going on music wise? Because I say that in a funny way, but you know I can't keep track of the different albums that you got because I think since the first time we talked, man, I know there's at least a handful of them that you've
Yeah,
released. So
yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead and tell the people what you got going on and where to find information related to your music.
I appreciate it. I just released Reload. Reload is a free download, or tip. You can tip, or whatever. But it's on my Noise Trade profile. It's noisetrade.com/ Tyrone Evans B20. Um, since we talked, I've released 2 albums and three free download projects. But basically, I released. I came up with an idea to have I get kind of a trilogy, like trying to be creative, trying to get some attention, whatever, and get some traction on the music. Um, the trilogy is basically 2 free download projects and an album. And the first free download project came first, the album, then the last free download project. The idea, well, the album was called Weaponized, and I called it the Weaponized Trilogy. The first installment, if you will, was Ammunition. That's what I called it, and I released it a couple months back on noisetrade.com, at my profile, noisetrade.com / Tyrone Evans. And it was 8 songs, kind of hard hitting, really lyrical songs, hard hitting. And that was kind of like the prelude to Weaponized, which I released on April 7th, but it finally went live on all of the digital markets on like 2 weeks later. But when you're an independent artist, that's just some of the things you got to deal with. I'm doing it all myself, but
Yeah.
it's available on iTunes, Google Play, Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, anywhere you can buy or stream music, download music. I get a lot of streams, so I get a lot of like 1 cent payments to my PayPal. Music is like if I had as many buys as I had 1 cent PayPal streams, or like, good lord, that's I see why major artists hate Spotify. Unfortunately, it doesn't do me any good, but I need it because I don't have I don't have a music audience like they do. I have a wrestling fan base, so to speak, but I don't really have a music fan base.
Right.
But yeah, then I released Weaponized. The release date officially was April 7th, and I always release my albums on the 7th of whatever month, no matter what day it falls on. I always release on the 7th. And then Reload was the last one. So the idea was, give you your ammunition, weaponize the ammunition, then reload. The what it's about is the idea that information is your weapon, and you know how they say knowledge is power. Basically, I decided with this project to kind of challenge the comfortability in Christianity today, and as well as other religious systems or faith-based systems, even non-faith-based systems, secular, belief systems as well. But I kind of decided to challenge all of those things in Christianity in particular, on things that I feel like that I've been finding out myself in my theological studies that I haven't been taught in church. And
Mhm.
not necessarily challenging it in a disrespectful way, but trying to understand why I haven't been taught some of these things that are very vital information. But the more that I learn, like I spent yesterday morning, I was up at like 6 o'clock in the morning until about 11 o'clock in the afternoon doing Bible study, but not
Mm.
necessarily reading. I was reading the Bible, but I was studying online. But it wasn't like, Jesus loves me, this I know. It was studying human history and, how biblical human history is, even people who don't believe in the Bible, which, is fine, that's their choice. But whether they believe in it or not, it's still the truth. In history, American history in particular, but human history is biblical. It's extremely biblical. And even, it's a lot, and I realize there's a lot of Christians who don't know a lot of the things that they're seeing that's going on today, like a lot of the truth and the truths that I'm finding out. And I kind of started this kind of line of studying back in 2010 of theological studying, but I scared everybody around me away from me because nobody wanted to hear it. But they just called me a conspiracy theorist. But I just had to get a hold of how to more sophisticatedly, if that's a word, and effectively explain what I was studying. But I had to understand it first. It's like you get a bunch of brute strength and you just break everything. You're like a bull in a china shop until you learn how to hone your strength and control it. If you,
Yeah.
you yeah, so that's kind of what I've been learning with this information, like where to talk about it, who to talk about it with, and how to get it out. But I've learned how to do it in my music as well, and will weaponize a lot of things. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard about the whole, dare I say, flat Earth conversation. But
Man, that's funny you say that. Me and my co-host were having a conversation about that earlier this week.
oh man, that's actually biblical. And it's funny because when I first started hearing about it, I watched the Breakfast Club, Power 105, and I watch their
Hmm.
shows sometimes. And I mean, it's a lot of the stuff I don't really get into, but it's just I like to listen to a lot of the artists when they break down uh, advice on how to make it in the industry, and some of their stories and things like that, or, independently. But and some people I
Hmm.
just like to hear from, hear about. Um, well, it came up, I guess, on that show, and I'm like, yeah, I've been hearing about this. So I just thought it was just another one of those silly little radical groups, like, who just want attention and all of that. So I'm like, oh well. Then I saw B.O.B. was like really, really, he was like really speaking up about it, and I think Tequila was another one. B.O.B. was like really speaking up about it, and B.O.B. in particular, like, I know his music is secular basically, but I have always sensed a very spiritual undertone in his music. And I've always kind of felt like I've sensed codes in his
Hmm.
lyrics. Like he was trying to really say some things that the average person who only listens to secular music and only has that line of thinking as far as money, cars, women, drugs, party, they're not going to pick up on. I felt like I was picking up on, like, okay, he's talking about God. He's not talking about, but certain things I'm like, okay, he's a little deeper than I thought he was. So
Hmm.
I figured, whatever, let me see what it's about. So I looked it up on YouTube, and 6 months later, I've spent every single night trying to prove myself wrong that the Earth is a globe, or that the Earth is flat, like trying to prove it wrong. And
Hmm.
the more time I've spent trying to prove it wrong, and the less I've been able to prove it wrong. Like it's crazy. So like I touched on that on the album on a couple of songs, just in my own little clever way. Like in one particular song, how did I put it? How did I put it? I said something like, I got frequent flyer miles, but I live on a plane. Uh, no, I said I don't fly first class, but I live on a plane. Something I have to look at the lyrics.
Okay.
Something like that.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's something. I live on a plane, and but I don't fly. But I no, it's something. I live on a plane, but I don't fly first class. But I live on his name. We got a flat rate for the Earth, but we decided to round up instead of doing the same. You feel what I'm saying? Like, very,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's like I think about some of those lines. Like, I wonder if anybody's going to get that, and I can't.
Probably not. That's
Yeah,
like, well, maybe they will, but like you, it's like any type of artwork,
yeah,
you would have to really pay attention. And I think I think, and you know why I say that? Like people our age probably do,
Yeah.
but if you think back to we were younger and listening to the rap that was out,
Like,
man, I go back and listen to some of the lyrics now that I listened to back then
man.
that is noise to me now, and I'm like, man, like I wasn't listening to the words back then. They were words, but I wasn't stringing them together.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Because I didn't care, I was just a kid, and it's cool. But now I sit there and listen, like this is some raunchy stuff these fools are talking about. I
Man.
can't take this noise in my ears every day.
Man. Tell me about.
So yeah. No. I when I say probably not older, people who have grown, emotionally, spiritually,
Right.
physically, all the way around, especially the emotional part, they'll be able to grasp it. But a younger crowd, you hope you reach them.
Yeah.
I hate to sound old, but that's
No,
kind of
but it's the truth
how
though.
yeah.
It's true. I'd rather be old in spirit and in mind than be too young for that matter. I mean,
Yeah.
you want to have
Yeah.
some degree of youth in spirit and in mind so you can relate and so you can still have some kind of vibrance to your life. But
Yeah.
you don't want to be half dead in the brain either. You want to be able to
Yeah.
relate.
Yeah.
But that was basically it. Like with just a lot of different things and um a lot of things, a lot of biblical things that don't really ever get talked about. But that's just kind of the first thing. But there's a lot of other things that I kind of really touch on in the latter projects coming up. I'm going to really dive into. But I figured, with all of the stigma about Michael Tarver and so forth and so on, and wrestling fans, I figured, well, I might as well ease that in because it'll it just but whatever. I'm not looking for controversy, but
Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
going to say whatever they're going to say. Like I just recently changed my Twitter name. I didn't change my Twitter name, but I changed the title. You know how you have the title and your actual address, Twitter, the at whatever your name is. I just changed
I
mine.
kn- yeah, I noticed that when you messaged me, like maybe not recently, but a month or so ago, I noticed that you changed it
Yeah.
from what it was. So I don't blame you. I mean,
Well, I did that. The reason why I did it in the first place, it was basically it said the same thing. It said Michael Tarver, but it said it in Japanese. And
right.
I just I just changed it to Michael Tarver in English. But I did that a couple years ago because I didn't really want people to find me, if that makes any sense. Like,
Oh no, that makes sense based
yeah.
on everything that was going on, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I didn't really want like I wanted people who really knew who I was, who really was interested in following me to find me. And the average
Right.
wrestling fan, I didn't want to find me. So I just
Right.
figured by now might as well just change it back. I'm not going back to Japan anytime soon or anything like that. And it was really inspired by that, the trip to Japan. And soon as I did that, man, woo, here come the wrestling fans. Michael Tarver was an epic failure. Michael Tarver was this. I'm like, ah, they found me. Man, that's all good.
Yeah. Don't look,
Yeah.
man. You and I don't even.
Yeah,
I never reached the level that you did, but I will say this about I've learned one thing in running a podcast for we're about to hit our year anniversary
oh,
and
congrats.
yeah, well thank you man. I really appreciate it. I will say this. There are I'm not because I know some of them are listening to this that there are these fools out there in the IWC, which
Oh,
I guess I shouldn't say fools because some of them are my listeners, but there are some out there that they will hide behind social
oh
media
yeah,
and fire off the dirtiest, nastiest things
yeah.
about people. They don't fire them off at me, but they fire them off at an occasional guest. I didn't get anything bad the last time you were on, just so you know.
Oh,
But
I appreciate
I've seen a few that I'm like, come on, man. I mean, do you really know this person? This person's coming on there,
it. Right.
just telling their story, and you verbally attack them. Come on, just hide behind a computer. I call them keyboard warriors. Keyboard soldiers, whatever you want to call them. But it is what it is. You're not gonna be able to. There's some people you're never gonna be able to change their mind because they're gonna hear one side of the story and not the rest of it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's just this is how it is. I mean, wrestling fans are brainwashed to see things a certain way, and I mean, unfortunately, it's based on how WWE has brainwashed them. And I'm not really tripping over it. It is what it is because the moment I've seen so many people in public, a lot of fans, the moment they see you, they're just happy if you acknowledge them or take a picture with them, whatever, or
Right, right.
it's so many times where they'll come on and diss me and take shots at me, and I'll follow them. and reply back and say something nice to him. And they're like, man, this Michael Tarver's, I just tried to bury him, and he's a nice guy. He didn't even, wow, okay, he made me into a fan. Like that's happened. I can't even tell you how many times that's happened.
Isn't that amazing though? How
Yeah,
when you reply with kindness,
yeah,
because you're like, I'm not even about to let this hatred, go anywhere
yeah,
or reciprocate the feeling. All of a sudden they go, oh, you all right.
yeah. They just want you to reply to, and a lot of them. I mean, I've had some of them keyboard warriors that'll come at me like beyond sideways, like upside down, like with some craziness. I mean, just to get me to respond. I mean, I had a guy, and I don't like to block people. Like I only have like blocked people like a couple of occasions. But I had one guy. He was saying some like stuff like Michael Tarver he likes to mess with little girls and little kids and blah blah blah. And,
Oh, no,
and
no.
I'm
Now
like,
that's crossing the line. That's going
yeah.
way too far.
And he was like coming at me, like saying it, like this and that, this and that, and like just basically taunting me, trying to get me to respond to him, just so he can say that I responded to him. This was like a couple years ago, and it pissed me off. I was like, "Whoa, dude! Like somebody will read
Yeah.
that. As stupid as American public is, somebody will
Hmm.
read that and think there's some truth to it." So I was like, I didn't respond to him. Like, how do I handle this? Like, do I message him? Like, no, I'm not gonna give him any attention. I'm just gonna block him. So I just blocked him and never heard anything from him again.
That's
But
good.
and even with the whole Gregory Irons thing, like I tried to like be peaceful. Like I tried to talk to him, and he just the more I responded was more of a platform for him to speak his agenda basically. So I figured,
I remember that. I remember,
yeah,
well, I don't remember that part, but I remember when you told me how, you tried. And I honestly think the best thing that could have happened with the whole situation was when you talked to Cabana or you
oh
talked to
yeah,
Colt.
yeah, yeah,
Cause I think, just me personally, I think that I listened, I've had friends listen to both the episodes. I've listened to both episodes just for myself.
yeah,
And look, to me, you come off as not, I don't want to say taking the high road, but it's like, look, I know what happened in there, and
yeah,
we're not going to mention the other person that was in the ring,
yeah,
but
of course.
we know what happened. That person knows what happened, and it's not what he had made it sound like. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm bashing Gregory at this point
Of
either, because
course, yeah,
it's water under the bridge. It's gone. We talked about it. If anybody wants to know what happened in that, go back to, I think, August or July of 2015 on this show, and you can hear all about um, what Tyrone had to say about the Gregory Irons situation. It's even on YouTube because I uploaded our whole conversation there. But
yeah, I saw it. Yeah,
yeah, man. Yeah, no, you did the right thing, and I think that episode with Colt really helped, smooth the waves, so to say, of that situation. I didn't think anything more of it at that point, especially after I talked to you. We talked a lot more detail about it. I was like, yeah, nah, that's squash. And you know what's funny?
yeah,
Look, I watch wrestling all the time now, and pretty much try to and stay in touch with a lot of indies.
right.
I don't really hear Gregory's name often anymore.
I don't really so much either, but I don't even think he really goes outside of Cleveland. Which I mean, I hope he's working. I mean, I hope he's doing fine. It's just
Yeah,
I don't have anything against him. I don't have anything
yeah,
for him. I'm not interested in,
right.
but I don't have anything against him either. I just, it's just a situation where a lot of misconceptions. I got to, and I'm always going to be grateful to Scotty for allowing me to come on the show because man, like a lot of misconceptions were crushed.
You mean Colt? You said Scotty. You mean Colt?
Colt, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of misconceptions, a lot of wrong ideas, were handled because of my appearance on this podcast, and I always be appreciative to him for that because a lot of people had the wrong idea and people still have the wrong idea about me and they just always will. Like, and I, looking at, it was one particular, I got a bunch of them, but one particular tweet, when somebody's talking about, well, I've had a bunch of tweets and Instagram posts about Nexus lately, but apparently, and I
I
don't,
want to ask you about that related to it, but go ahead,
yeah,
because I
yeah,
got
for
some
sure.
Nexus questions for you.
Oh,
But no, go ahead. Say what you were gonna say.
oh, no problem. Because apparently I didn't know that I guess Ryback and Wade Barrett just left WWE. I didn't know that.
What? Okay, so since you're going there, I'll
Yeah,
I'll, I'll throw this in there, and we can work it into whatever you're
of
gonna
course,
say.
of
But
course.
so Barrett, yeah, today was released, and it came to my mind because I'm like,
What?
you knew him from Nexus. Yeah, I just saw it. Obviously, I run a pro wrestling podcast, so I
Yeah.
saw it on Twitter. And then Ryback wasn't released, but another one of your former Nexus cohorts
Yeah.
was Ryback left Raw on Monday and posted on his Twitter a real long blog about needing there to be equal pay, and he hasn't been able to come to contract terms that were satisfactory for him. This was on Monday, May 2nd, and he was
Uh,
not on Raw. This was after being on the pre-show against Kalisto for the U.S. title this past Sunday. So he left and basically went on a long, right back went on a long spiel about how when you are in the WWE and even guys that are jobbers, and
yeah.
you and I both know this from it more than me from being in Indies, no matter where you quote unquote are on the card, if the promoter tells you to go out there and lay your shoulders down, unless you're a butthole, you're gonna go out there and lay your shoulders down because that's the job that you're being paid to do. And
Right.
Ryback's point was, you got guys out there making 10 million a year, and I'm making these numbers up, so
Of
nobody
course.
quote me
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
10 million a year, and Cena's making this amount. But yet, a guy like you who is doing nothing but going out there and doing your job and getting pinned ends up getting released 5 years later, but never made anywhere near the money he could have made because you were out there just doing the job you were being told to do. And he's like, people need to give credit to these guys who are, the quote unquote jobbers of the world
Right.
who really get kind of kicked to the curb once their WWE time is up, and then nobody wants to value them because of what WWE made them look like,
Yep.
and they also weren't getting paid.
Yep.
So I let me say this, Tyrone. Go look online. I'll even send you the link to
Yeah.
it
Please
when I
do.
get a chance
I want to see that.
to see what Ryback said, because my thought behind it, and you can tell me after you read it,
Yeah.
is I don't know Ryback. You know him.
Yeah.
My thought was right message, wrong guy, and I say wrong guy based on the way the wrestling community views Ryback,
Yeah.
as not this Cena-esque, because everybody thinks Cena's God.
Right.
Um,
Right.
he's not this Cena character. Cena, he's not the main event guy. So it was like almost right message, maybe wrong guy, but I don't know. I'll let you share your thoughts on the whole Barrett and what I just told you about Ryback.
Ryback. He is an extremely humble guy. He's a very, 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 very humble guy. Very good-hearted, good-natured guy. Like very young at heart type guy. Like you would be surprised how fun-loving he is. And
I saw it on his table of three on the WWE Network with him, Daniel Bryant, and I think it was one of the members of the Shield, but I can't remember. So I believe it based on what I was seeing from their little discussion that they were having. Which table of three is kind of like a video podcast that
okay.
WWE does. But so I can believe that. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you good. No, you're good. Yeah, he's extremely down to earth. I'll tell you a quick story. During Nexus, when we were kind of blowing up and everybody was kind of getting full of themselves. Um, and
That never happens, right?
right, exactly. I mean, these are my friends. I
Right.
still consider them friends. We don't
Yeah.
talk or anything, but if I saw them,
Right.
I would hug them. But we were at the Dallas airport on a layover, and I was with a couple of somehow our flights got broken up. Half of us was on one flight, another was on another, like a flight a little bit later. Well, what had happened was I wasn't one of the cool guys in the group. As the group progressed and Cena
Yeah.
kind of divided and conquered, I basically became the target. And I was
Mhm.
kind of getting buried slowly, more and more getting buried behind the scenes.
Right.
And it carried over into the group. And, even the guys I was spent the last couple of years in developmental with, they started kind of treating me like the main roster guys were starting to treat me, who loved me prior to Cena, basically destroying my career, so to speak. And I mean, I got no problem with Cena, but I mean, things just changed in a drastic way. Um,
Right.
so basically, I think I was supposed to ride with them. We were at the hotel, and they left me at the hotel. They had the rental car, and they left me at the hotel. So I had to get a cab to the airport, and I had to rush to the airport. Got to the airport and missed my flight because they left me. Like they didn't even like check for me, and I was like, "Wow, okay."
Jeez.
And then I'm not going to say who they were, but so I happened to when I got there, Ryback and Darren Young were there, and I was pissed off. I was so angry, and I told them like, I can't believe they left me. Like I can't believe they left me. It was a lot of other reasons why I was starting to slowly not fit in. Other reasons as well, but
Right.
um, so they were like, man, they were like, I missed my flight. They were like, oh man, Skip offered. What did he offered to pay? I can't remember what it was. It was something. I don't know if it was a rental car or something, but he offered to pay for it. Like he felt so bad because he started to kind of see it too. Everybody saw it, but it wasn't Darren Young and Skip. Let's just put it that way. It wasn't those two. Um, but
So people are gonna go process of elimination. They're gonna know what you're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah. I mean,
But go ahead. No, I hear you.
no,
Go
you're
ahead.
right. But I mean, I'm friends with everybody there. All of those guys, I got love for all of them. But it wasn't definitely was not those two. But
I got you. Yeah.
but he, if I can't remember exactly what it was, but he like off. I don't know if it was a flight or something. But he offered, or not a flight, a rental car or something. But he offered to pay for it, I believe, or something. I can't remember what it was, but I remember like, wow, this dude is like really a humble, like a good-hearted guy. Like he's,
Hmm.
but and he had been through a lot during his both of his times at WWE because he was at WWE um, before he was on NXT and in FCW. He was in OVW and he was on Tough Enough, and he had run into
Yep.
some problems and he had some issues and things, but he got released, spent some time away from WWE. And when he got hired back, he was a different person and he was ready, and then sometimes that's just how it happens. You spend time away. When you go back, now you're ready for WWE. And he was
Right.
ready. And it was obvious, look at what he turned into. And he was
Hmm.
very determined. So seeing with it, I'm 100% behind what he was saying. The only issue is that it's just the nature of WWE. There is no equality. There is none. And I mean,
Right.
they tell us, I'm John Laurinaitis, God bless him, he hired me and released me. But I'll always have love for John Laurinaitis, even though I couldn't believe a word he ever said. I'll always have love for him because he offered me a job to change my life. Um,
Right.
but he said personally, different rules, different folks. Learn to eat crap and like it, and that's when I realized when I say learn to play the game, that's what the game is. Different rules for
Hmm.
different folks, and learn to like it, and whether you like it or not, because you're going to see people who are going to get things that you deserve that they do not deserve, but they're going to get them because of who they're related to, who they're sleeping with. It's a color thing as well. It's not even just a color thing, but it's even just a regional thing. Like you'll see a
Yeah.
lot of the British guys and Irish guys will really get shots, which is great. But I had nothing against any of them. But that's McMahon's, that's his cup of tea. But
Yeah. You can man, look, on my show, if you ever listen to it, we get into it all the time
yeah,
about how they did a segment this week with our truth that I felt was like the most racist thing I've ever
yeah,
seen.
yeah.
But but Vince 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 does some stuff that I'm like, well, I say Vince. WWE does some stuff that I'm like, ooh boy, they just feed the stereotypes. And I understand part of it's to be entertaining. So I can't,
But here's the thing though: is it excusable just because it's meant to be entertaining? Because what you're doing is you're programming your audience to whatever agenda that you're filtering into your entertainment. So if you're
right.
you're putting racism in your entertainment or sexism in your entertainment, then you're programming them into thinking that whatever it is you're filtering is okay, and or that you are okay with it, whatever it might be. So
Right.
a lot of the stuff they do with our truth, I see it, and it's like what an amazing talent, what an amazing guy, like an amazing talent. And I remember,
I'm glad you said that because I was going to ask you what your thoughts were on him from a talent because I
oh
think the
man,
world of him
yeah,
from a talent perspective. Like he looks like someone who you could do a lot more with than what I saw this past Monday. But I'm gonna let you finish,
oh
so you,
no,
and
yeah,
then I'm gonna tell you what they did with him.
oh yeah, please do, yeah, no, he's amazing, man. I remember when he was the most over baby face on TV, and this is while I was there. Like, you got 30,000 people singing the words to your theme song, no matter what
Hmm.
city. Even if you walk out and when he accidentally said the wrong city in Wisconsin, they still were singing the words to a song. Like, it's like, come on, like, I mean, how much more over can you possibly get than
Right.
that? To the
Yep.
point where they actually had no choice but to put him in the storyline with Cena, and then they just basically buried him, honestly. But
Right.
it is what it is. Like I don't have any regrets about being there, but I understand what Ryback was saying. But from his perspective, he can say that. I can't say that. But his
Right.
perspective, he can say something like that. But he also, he made it, further than I did on a singles level. I never got a singles push, never got a titles push. I got a push as a part of a group, but
Right.
I got a push in developmental, as a singles, but I never won anything. But it is what it is. And with Wade Barrett, I they just released him. Like,
I think he released a statement. So, and I don't remember the exact statement and what it said, but he has been released. It's been. Let me say this. It's been in talks for a while that he was gonna be released
uh,
or wasn't renewing or whatever. But yeah, this is not new. They've been discussing this since. Oh man, I'm trying to. I remember hearing about this months ago. So here's what he tweeted out. After almost 9 years, today saw my final day with WWE. I made a decision back in August last year not to resign once my current contract expired in June 2016. So he made a decision last year not to resign, and I've now reached an agreement with management to dissolve the contract a few weeks early. Thank you to everyone who supported me over the years, especially the guys I've shared a ring and locker room with. I will miss them tremendously. As planned, I am now taking a well-earned break from the wrestling industry in order to expand my horizons, but I'll be back in the ring when the time is right. Thank you for your support, everyone. I'll see you all down the road. Signed, Stu Bennett, Wade Barrett. So that was his statement. As someone you knew from the Nexus,
yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
I honestly, I hope he's going into acting. That's what I hope for him because
Yeah.
he's extremely talented. He's man, that guy is talented. Wow, and extremely creative. I loved him to death when I was there with him. Every time, all the time I spent with him, loved him to death. And he's a surprisingly humble guy too, because they pumped his head up and they with the whole Nexus thing, and they tried to make it, seem like we were supposed to worship at his feet, even behind the scenes. And they played that game, the old school game that the old schoolers,
Hmm.
veterans play with the greenhorns. It is what it is. But
Hmm.
he took everything in stride and handled everything so well when we were there. Like him and I being at the top, him myself and Jason Gabriel basically being at the top of FCW leading into the debut of NXT. Basically the three of us being in the title picture is like the three top guys.
Right.
And him and I basically having the top kind of storyline between the three of us, basically, because I was the boxer, he was the bare knuckle fighter, and like we were really building. Dusty was building a huge story between the three of us to basically go to NXT and Nexus, and basically the two of them at the top of the eight of us and me somewhere staring up at the bottom side of the bottom.
Hmm.
And it was just like, but they handled it well. Like I just saw Justin Gabriel like a couple months back at a show here in Florida and came up and gave me this big hug. Man, we just talked like it was nothing, like it was yesterday. And it would be the exact same way with any of the Nexus, well, most of the Nexus guys. It would be well, all of them probably. It would be the exact same way,
When
But
you say Gus and Jaber, you talking about PJ?
PJ Black,
Okay,
yeah,
that's who I thought. I'm just making sure for people who know him as PJ Black.
yeah, yeah, Justin Gabriel,
That's why I asked that. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's cool. He's been working. He did some work with Jared for Global, right?
yeah,
Or
he's been
yeah,
busy. He's been really
yeah.
busy, man, and that's
That's
and
awesome.
good for him. I'm sure TNA is gonna pick right back up. Sure they will. I'm sure they
That's
will.
that's good, man.
Good for
I'm
them.
glad to see that. I like to see. I say this on my show all the time. I like to see the guys that are, I don't want to say mistreated, but not mishandled, not built correctly,
Oh yeah,
not treated right. Whatever term you want to assign it, the guys that quote unquote fail because they don't fail in
yeah,
WWE. I don't
yeah,
think that it's a failure thing as much as fans like to say that. It's not what happens. It's just they're not utilized correctly,
yep.
um, or built appropriately, and therefore in the fans' eyes they failed. I like when those guys like Luke Gallows
Oh
goes to
yeah,
Japan and
yeah,
blows up, and now all of a sudden a guy that they were kicking out the door is involved in a main angle
yeah,
with the company.
yeah.
And I don't know Luke personally, so I've never met him, but
He's a nice
it,
guy.
it, he's just an example though,
Yeah,
Tyrone, of you know that machine thought he was not worth it, right?
right.
So he leaves, and goes to TNA and does his thing there, and then goes to Japan, and all of a sudden, man, this guy, we got to bring him back. He's a main guy. I mean,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
I like seeing things like that, man. It's refreshing that a guy like that comes back and does his thing, and he's just one of a few that end up like that. So when I see a guy like Justin Gabriel also have success, although not in the WWE doing his thing, I still think that's good, man. It's positive.
And they wasted so much talent. They wasted so many people. They wasted, man. Like I knew the moment that they signed, and I love Finn Balor. How can I forget his name?
Virgil Devitt.
Yeah, Devitt. Yeah, Prince Devitt. I met him, when I was over there in Japan. Talk about you want to talk about a humble guy. Like, that's a great guy. And like, I only spent like a week with him, but he came and sat down. We were on the bus, on the New Japan bus, sitting in the back, and he came and sat. We were like on a how many hours was that drive to Hiroshima? Good Lord. He sat back for like 3 hours and just talked to us. Just here he is, one of the top guys, and we're just some new guys. He sat back there and just got to know us, just talk to us. He was asking a bunch of questions about WWE and things like that. I'm like, yeah, great guy. I just love that guy to death. But I knew the moment they signed him, they were going to release Justin Gabriel, and then they were going to release Drew McIntyre. I knew they were going to do, because I know exactly how they think. It's just like
Yeah,
at the moment when Big E debuted, I knew they were going to release Ezekiel Jackson. But that's how they think. But they're so predictable, and they're so in with the old, in with the new, out with the old. Like they completely forget about what they have. Like they'll buy a brand new Maserati, and then take the Maserati out for a drive, and as they're driving, look up and see a Lamborghini, and go, "Oh, a Lamborghini!" and jump out of the Maserati, go to the Lamborghini, even though the Maserati works
yeah.
perfectly fine. That's just how they
That's
are.
that's a great way to put it.
Right. But that's WWE. That's the wrestling business. And
And the proof is in the pudding when they bring back a guy like Luke Gallows.
oh yeah, well that's
I mean,
different.
because that's what they did. Well, I mean, they tossed him to the side. Oh, he's this guy's not gonna. He can't make us money, right?
Oh man,
And then he goes and does his thing in TNA and then blows up in Japan with the Bullet Club, and all of a sudden now he's in the main storyline.
yeah. But that's a matter of that in wrestling. For all of us, it is a matter of chance. It's never a matter of talent. It's a matter of chance, timing, and mostly relationships. And he had some some good connections and good relationships. And him and I talk. Great guy. I know him. He's a really nice guy, actually. Very humble guy.
Cool.
And um, but no, he's with him. It was definitely a matter of timing and relationships, and he handled them perfectly. And I actually saw him. We were both on a flight. We were in Charlotte, at the
Hmm.
airport in Charlotte. I think we were on the way to the same show, as a matter of fact. And um, we were sitting in whatever in the waiting area talking, and he was telling me he was about to go to All Japan. I'm like, oh man, that's cool. By that time I hadn't
Hmm.
gone to Japan yet myself, but he was saying he was actually on his way to All Japan. It was kind of kayfabe. And I was like, oh man, that's wow, that's awesome. And like good for you. And
Yeah.
he was giving me information. He's like, you need to get over there. I'm like, I'm trying to get over there. He's always been one of those people who was like, you need to be here, you need to be there. And I'm like, bro, I don't have the same relationships. But and it just he gave me some of the information to some of the people he was connected to. I won't say one person in particular. I won't say his name out of respect, even though I don't really care for him. Don't think he deserves respect. But he just I contacted him. He completely superstarred me, kayfabe me from front to back. And every time I've ever seen him, he's ever done it. And you would think that I would be somebody he would want to actually help, but considering, but it is what it is. I don't hold it against him. He's it is what it is. But he's somebody.
This is an American in Japan.
He was like the Gaijin kind of. Uh, he would help the guys get over, and this for all Japan when they were
Oh,
bringing
okay.
Gaijin guys over. He was their
Okay.
their liaison, so to speak. Uh,
Okay.
he's not anymore, um,
Okay.
but yeah, and I when I went and visited TNA a couple years back, I saw him, and anyway. Anyway, but
Okay.
it's just when you meet people, like when you see people on TV, you look up to them and you actually see them for what they are. It's like, wow. Then you're seeing the business for what it is. But anyway,
I hate that too. I hate that when I meet a guy and I'm like, dude,
yeah,
I could be a millionaire and you're treating me like dirt.
yeah,
I just hate guys like that. And I don't say anything. I just kind of like, oh, okay. I figured that out. You're just a bad human being. I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
You're not like a murderer or nothing, but you know what I mean. It's like, okay,
that's
I
what the
see what kind of
wrestling
person.
business is comprised of. Is I
I
mean,
know, man. That's the sad
What
part.
it is.
That's the sad
the
part.
worse human being you are, the better you do. That's just how wrestling is.
Man,
And
you just said a mouthful, and like the average person just doesn't.
they don't
They
get it.
don't get that.
They don't get it. But I mean, you got to be, and you know, from being an insider, is, and even getting to certain levels, man. It's just you have to. I was talking to Tremperette a couple years back, and he was like, he got sick of WWE. Like he got sick of how you're brainwashed to think you got to step on people to get to the top. Like you don't have to. You can just be nice to people, and treat people right. And he's another guy that's a really nice guy, like an amazing talent that they just had no clue. Like now they got all of these guys who look just like him. They're doing the exact same things that he can do, except he sells.
Hmm.
He actually sells. A lot of these guys don't even sell, but he can not only do all of the crazy flippy stuff, but he can sell and make anybody look like he can make a broom look like $1 million. But again, that's with WWE. Driving a Maserati, see a Lamborghini, crash the Maserati because they can't stop looking at the Lamborghini. They just,
Hmm.
with NXT, it's cool to see them actually debuting new talent, but at the same time, it's like they should have. It's. I learned a long time ago, man, that they never do what they should have done, and sometimes they'll learn from it, sometimes they don't, and it's a matter of who happens to be in charge of it. Like you look at the Shield versus the Nexus, and again, since Wade Barrett and Skip leaving, those guys. Is a lot of conversations have been conjured up, and I've been hit by a lot of fans like, "Oh man, we missed the Nexus." I'm like, "Well, you'll probably never see it again, unless
Now Skip, I don't know if Skip's officially left yet. I know he went home, but I know he's still under contract, I think.
he won't. He won't."
But it's I guess it's a rare thing, he decided to leave because or he's going it's worded kind of weird, you probably can make better heads or tails of it because you had a contract with them than I can, but
Yeah,
he went home from Raw reportedly on Monday, and it's a discrepancy over, I guess, coming to terms under his new contract.
right.
Now Stu Wade Barrett, yes, he's gone.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, it's just it's different rules for different folks. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
possibly make an argument for getting paid, even though they took a lot of money from me, a lot of money I should have made that I didn't make, and it affected my life personally on a very, very tremendous level. But I'll never complain about it. But it is what it is. But there's
Yeah.
a lot of things that happen to be from being with WWE positively but negatively, and
What? Yeah.
I can't, again, it's just different rules, different folks. He can complain about something like that. I can't. But either way, even with Nexus, with the Shield, they did it correctly with the Shield. They built the Shield and did it the way they were supposed to. They replenished the main event roster with the Shield like they should have done with the Nexus. The only thing is, my only argument with the Shield is that with the Nexus, you had 8 monsters. Like not all of us were like big guys, with the exception of Brian and PJ. They weren't big guys, but then you still had 2 smaller guys that you can put on the top of the roster as well too. But you had 8 guys who were all talented in their own way that you could have replenished the entire main event roster, completely new storylines, new feuds, new, and instead, business acts as the business does, where the top guys see a new group of guys come in and they don't want to have another NWO happen where everyone's TV time gets taken. So I mean, that's
That's
basically
so
what it was.
true.
I mean, it is.
Yeah.
So they, divide and conquer, destroy the whole thing before, as it gets super hot, kill it to the point to where it's obvious, that's blatantly obvious that that's what it was, that they were killing it before it got, too hot to where, God forbid the Nexus made a couple million more dollars. It's just, God forbid, but the
And the sad part about that is the average wrestling fan looks at that and goes, not incorrectly. They go, "Oh, Michael Tarver. Oh,
yeah,
Wade Barrett. Oh, Justin Gabriel. They just didn't have it. They couldn't get over it. It was their fault.
course.
And they don't see the political aspect of the backdrop of it all and what's going on behind the scenes. And I just know the guys I talk to, some of them go on record and some of them don't.
Yeah,
They'll flat out tell you there's a whole lot of that happens behind the scenes that that you will never be privy, that they will never be privy to, and
Uh-huh.
they don't understand how certain decisions are made. And it's not the talent that's screwing it up. So you're out there booing a certain guy or cheering a certain guy, but you don't realize how that ended up even happening. You're
You're
just seeing the outcome of
you're seeing the outcome, and I've said on plenty of occasions, the irony of it is when I work a match, and it doesn't happen that often, but I work a match. I work with FIP here in Tampa because I just like people. I like the guys who run FIP. I don't not often I actually like a wrestling promoter, but I actually like these guys. They're very creative.
it.
Um,
My
MSL, he's part
buddy,
of it. Yeah.
my okay, my buddy always listens to his podcast and he talks about him all the time. He's like, man, he's like, MSL is always talking about your boy, Tarver. He's always talking about Tarver. So I listened to it one day and yeah, he had brought you up and I was like, that's pretty cool, man. I didn't know if he was running it the way he described it or if he was just a part of it.
No, he has some creative control in it, I believe.
Okay,
But I'm a part of. He has a faction, and I'm a part of his faction. But the
gotcha.
beauty of it is that they've allowed me to have creative control. And basically, what I did was I took one of their young guys, and basically I told him, "This is what I want to do. I don't want to do meaningless scrambles, 6 man, stupid matches where I'm in there with a bunch of flippy guys who've only been in the business for a couple years, who are 200 pounds lighter than I am, who don't know how to
Right.
sell." And I said, "Give me a guy, marry me to him for a couple months, give me 3 matches with him. I'll beat
Hmm.
him down, rebuild him, get him over. Give me another guy. I'll do this." And I told him, let me do that and let me actually pour in some knowledge, all of the knowledge that I have. Let me pour that into somebody. Like, okay, thank you. I was like, yeah. So I picked a guy named Rick Giddens, and we finished our story last month. We finished the first part of it, but we did like this first. We started last year in August, actually, but we had 3 matches, and I came up with this incredibly creative story. And we had the 3 match series where the first couple times I beat him down, but basically by the first match, like I had people come up to me like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're this good. Oh my, what a story! Wow, I can't believe." And they're like praising him. He's only 2 years in the business. I'm like, and he was like, "Man, I can't believe people are saying this stuff." I'm like, "Well, you obviously know it's why they're saying it, but take it as a compliment because I can carry you, but at the same time, you still have to be able to do your part." And dude is good. He's really good. I mean, he's for someone who's only been in the business for 2 years, his instincts are out of this world. But it takes the right person to optimize those instincts and help him to look the best he can look instead of going in there trying to trade finishing moves and high spots and just get yourself over. I'm not that guy. I approach a match with how do I get the match over and make it believable and confusing, and how do I get this person over? Because it's not going to hurt me at all. Because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
people are going to have whatever conception they have of me until the music hits and I walk out with the towel over my head and the spiked mask, and then they're like, "Whoa!" Because the moment I walk out, the whole, everything, the whole temperature of the room changes. I just have that kind of presence. But um, we did this, crazy little story, and just touched on a whole bunch of personal things and made the stakes, very high. So when he won the match, and this is a cold match, literally. We did the first 2 matches in Tampa and the last one in Orlando, and it was in front of wasn't a big crowd, but it was people who didn't really know the match, just a couple of fans. So I did a little
Hmm.
promo, pre-match, kind of to tell the story and implicate the ramifications of if he wins the match, and proceeded to beat the mess out of him. And he came back, and man, when he won, it was like super emotional. Like it was like a like one of those main event like TV emotional matches,
Yeah.
and he came after the match. He hugged me. He's like, "Man, thank you so much, man. I've learned so much." I'm like, "Oh, we're not done, but thank you for thanking me." But it's the idea that people will come up to me like, "Wow, the story you told. Oh my, I didn't know you were that good. I had no idea. Had no idea." I'm like, "Well, I said thank you." I was telling them, "Thank you for paying attention. I appreciate it. Just understand that what you saw me do on TV was what I was allowed to do. It's not what I was capable of doing." And I had to explain that to
Yeah,
people
man.
all the time when I do seminars. They're like, "How do you know so much?" I'm like, "The average person in WWE knows just as much, if not more. But the only people you get to see shine are the people who are politically allowed to shine. It just is what it is. Like I can't explain it any better." And that's why
Yeah,
wrestling is
man.
bittersweet for me because it's like, it's like how many. I hate hearing it as much as I love hearing it. Like, man, I didn't know you were that good. Huh, well, well, go tell somebody then, because you know.
Well, yeah, it's very true. And the thing is, I heard I heard MVP say once
Ah, it's my
that
man. Yeah.
when okay, so like you wake up every day, and this kind of goes along with what you're saying. You wake up every day, you look in the mirror, and you know who you are, and you know who you are for as long as you've been on this planet.
Right.
And but that TV and that TV time, it makes people see you in a different way. While you still look at yourself as Tyrone Evans, that television, all of a sudden, people look at you in a different light. And while you are the same person that is appearing on television, they don't see you as the same person. They see you as this character, even though they know you are a professional wrestler portraying a certain image. They still think that's you as a person.
I'll tell you why.
And and the thing is, when you say what you're telling me about, you have people that go, man, I didn't know you had this. I didn't know you were like that. Well, that's because of the lack in your case
Yeah.
of real TV time. I don't think you have your real TV time, but the way
Yeah.
they told the story
Yeah.
of who you were, people, the average wrestling fan goes, oh, Tyrone Evans, Michael Tarver, he was that guy in the Nexus. They didn't do anything with him because he didn't have the talent. When that ain't the case.
Yeah. Not at all. Not.
And it's sad because, look, I've never been at that level that you at, but I just know from a guy like Byron, he's a
Oh,
mutual friend of
man.
ours.
Yeah.
Byron's talented.
Yeah.
Byron's a tall guy. Byron's got a good look.
Yeah.
Why did Byron never get that chance? I mean, I can't answer that. I've seen him a million times. I mean, and I know him. I know him personally, but it's just an example of the guys out there who don't get the opportunity. But someone will look at you who did get I say small, who
Well,
got a
yeah.
big
Yeah.
opportunity.
Small.
I mean, I can't say small. I mean small by terms of they never did anything with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got
I
a
know what you
big
mean.
opportunity by as far as you on Monday Night Raw with 4 million people watching you.
Yeah.
That's a big opportunity.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, the perception of what that television show makes you look like, and you're like, nah, man, that's not me. So I tie all that into what MVP said because, man, he hit the nail on the head when he said that. It's like the TV, they think that's you when, man, they don't know the person.
The television screen is a magnifying glass. Look at it like that. You ever heard the saying? And I found it somewhere, and I live by it. When you look at somebody, they look at you a certain way, and it's wrong, but they refuse to get off of the way they see you. So I just tell
Yeah,
them your what is it? Your perception of me is a reflection of you.
yeah, yeah,
Think
yeah.
about how deep that is. So when you're on
That
TV,
is deep.
right, and it's for me, it's my everyday life because of the way I look. I'm a 6'3", 260-pound, muscle-bound black man with tattoos who looks
Right,
extremely menacing and aggressive. But that's not who I am at all. That's on the inside, I'm the exact opposite of that. On the outside,
right,
I look extremely menacing and intimidating. So no matter how I walk, how I dress, no matter what I do, I'm going to get all kinds of negative perceptions, or if not crazy ones, right?
right,
But at the same time, the kind of people who would look at me and immediately see negativity, it's because that's what's behind their own eyes before they look. So it's only
right,
being filtered through their eyes. It's not something that they see when they look at me. It's something that they created on their own and they're casting it on me. So,
right,
you see anything. You see somebody and the first thing you think is maybe you think positive, like, well, maybe this person is this or maybe this person is that, and it's something positive. That's because that's what's in your heart to see them as. And I say that because the time when MVP said, when you're on TV, not to mention the fact that WWE does brainwash their audience but they do. They brainwash their
They
audience.
do. No, I'm laughing because I'm agreeing with you. They
Oh yeah,
do.
yeah. So,
They will brainwash that audience.
oh,
Ooh.
they have.
And they got 3 hours every Monday and 2 hours every Thursday to do it.
Right. And the moment I walk out on TV, I'm automatically assumed to be a heel. Why? Because I'm a big black guy. I'm
Yep.
automatically a heel. But you also have to consider it's not necessarily just a race thing, even though it's kind of racist, but it's not necessarily a race thing. When you look at it, okay, what if I walked out? What if I had to perform? What if I was supposed to perform my first single from my album, but I was performing it at a NASCAR race?
Oh God.
It's the same parallel. If I walk out,
Yep.
in a NASCAR track and try to perform a rap song, let alone Christian rap song, it wouldn't even matter if it was a Christian rap song. They will think it
No,
was
it wouldn't.
garbage just because it was rap. And
Exactly.
which is fine to a degree. It's kind of racist, but not racist because it is but isn't, because they don't have to like rap music if they don't want to. But that's their
Right.
choice. But at the same
Right.
time, to automatically assume it's negative because it's rap, that's where it comes in. But the point is, it's like trying to perform a hip hop song at a NASCAR race. Like, it's just, so I'm walking out trying to be myself in front of a NASCAR audience, so to speak. And then on top of that, when you have the people writing, the creative, there were so many, and I had a problem, and this is why Byron didn't make it out of developmental, let alone to WWE. Byron is very strong-willed. He's a strong-willed, educated, opinionated black man who you're not going to tell him any different from what he already knows, and he's learned a lot in his life and experienced a lot. He's a military veteran, and all of the same accolades and American type, things that are glamorized and whatever. He's done all of those things.
You nailed it with him to a T too,
Oh yeah.
because knowing him, how I know him,
Yep.
he is a very strong, opinionated dude, and that's one of the reasons why I respect him so
Oh, well,
much.
same. And they just they couldn't. Now, on the same token, he wasn't Big Daddy Yum Yum back then. Big Daddy Yum Yum is money. Like, that's money. Byron wasn't
Yeah,
Big Daddy Yum Yum back then. And so, to his, to a degree, you have to be fair. If he was Big Daddy Yum Yum in 2009 in FCW, that's different. Then it'd be like, okay, I don't see what, I don't know what's, I know what's wrong with y'all, but at the same time, I don't know what's wrong with y'all because this is money. But
right.
but it just, in all fairness, he wasn't what he is now. But at the same
Yeah,
time, he had the potential to be. But I think what happened to him is, and that's the beauty of when things happen to us, they turn us into what we're meant to be. The easy road doesn't turn you. The easy road doesn't make you stronger. The rough road makes you stronger, so you can deal with the rough road and conquer it. But you know, it just is what it is. And you got guys. It's usually some white dude from Connecticut whose life is completely different from mine, or whatever, or from whatever, because that's where they're based, and he can't
right.
relate to any part of my life. But I'm supposed to depend on him to write from my perspective. So when I go out
Right.
and cut promos and say, "Yeah, man, yo, homie," and I'm supposed to say that because they're
Right.
critiquing, and Dusty would
Right.
tell me, like, take the promos. He smarted me up to that. Like, that's why I love him to death and always will. He smarted me up to that. He's like, they're not going to be able to write from your perspective. Number one, you're too talented. Number two, they can't write from a black person's perspective. It just is what it is. I can't write from your perspective. I can relate to a degree, but you actually are talented enough that you can actually do it. And he would always tell me, when you get up there, when you get your promo, say it in your own words, but say what they want you to say, but say it in your own words. And don't be
Yeah.
afraid to do it. Knock it out the park. The less fear you show, the more respect they will show you.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I showed no fear and knocked it out the park, and it costed me my job. But it just happens to people like that. But with Byron, and him and I were doing these crazy promos. We were tag teaming, and we were so good, and they had us, um, they had us breaking in some of the new guys and polishing up new guys. They had me doing that a lot of which is ironic. Like, they would put new guys with me all the time at FCW. But either way, it's
That's insane, man.
yeah.
I mean, just that thought. But like you said, he was opinionated, and of course they don't want that. It's crazy because it's like you got, it's almost like you gotta be that way, except
Oh, you do.
be it in a cutthroat way.
Well,
It,
here's the
it
thing.
it's crazy.
Well, you're right. But the thing is, here's where the game comes into play. You have to be opinionated. You got to be strong-willed. Look at CM Punk. You got to be like CM Punk. Problem is, you have to look like CM Punk to be like CM Punk.
Hmm.
I can't. And the crazy thing is that I was doing all of those things, like the whole pipe bomb thing. I love CM Punk to death. Like, no, take nothing away from him. But the quote unquote pipe bomb, I guess, style of promo that he was doing on TV, I was doing that behind the scenes. I'm not saying that I'm not taking anything away from him, but we were on the same wavelength. Is what I'm trying to say. Not saying that he
Right.
stole my swag. Like, no, CM Punk is CM Punk. I can't take nothing away from him. He's great. But
Were you there the night he dropped the pipe
no,
bomb?
I wasn't there. I was already gone.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Okay. I couldn't remember the
no, no,
time.
no, I was already going by then. But like,
Okay.
I was doing those kind of promos behind the scenes, so we were on the same wavelength. And I could always tell whenever he would talk to me that he got me. Like Punk, even I saw him after WWE, after I was released, that is. And
Right.
walked up, shook his hand. Him and Joey Matthews said what's up to me, asked me how I was doing, and I said I'm good. I just want to say what's up to you guys. I won't get in your way, and left it at that. But I could always tell that Punk understood me, that he got me,
Yeah.
and he actually, we had a conversation before Mania, in it was in Arizona. I want to say 2010, and he asked me, he's like, "Are you on?" No, this was the next one, and I wasn't on TV, and he's like, "Are you gonna be on the show?" I'm like, "No." He said, "Why not?" And I mean, I was so puzzled, like, "What do you mean, why not?" And he was like, "Why aren't you going to be on the show? You don't have a match." I'm like, "No." And I'm thinking to myself, how could I possibly have a match? Like, I'm not to that level where I could ask for it. And I'm thinking in a box, like, I couldn't possibly, I'm not worthy to ask for a match. And he looked at me like he knew what I was thinking. He knew where I was. And he was like, "Yes, you are." He's like, "Just, you want a match? Ask for it. Just ask for it. Like, tell them you want a match on Mania." And he told me so much, but said so little. And it just was like, huh, if you
Yeah.
go get it.
Right.
And like, granted, different rules, different folks. Punk is going to get more 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, he's going to get more of what he asked for than I would. But what he said was, it was so righteous. Like, if you want it, go get it. Like, why allow
Right.
yourself to fit in the box that they put you in? Go get it. And
Right.
like, I always have respect for that. Like, just him. I don't even know if he even knows he had that kind of impact on me by even saying that. But like, wow. But and that's
Yeah,
basically.
because
Go.
that. Oh, no. Go ahead. You were saying basically.
No. I mean, when you think about what Ryback was saying, the reason why Ryback still has a job is because he did that. And I remember when I got released, and shortly after they tried to release him, and when we were in Nexus, he hurt his foot bad,
I remember
really
that.
bad.
He talks about that too.
Yeah, he hurt his foot bad, and they botched the surgery. And he almost wasn't going to be able to walk normal for the rest of his life. Like, it would have changed the way he would have been able to walk, and WWE wasn't going to take care of him. So he made, like, they called him and tried to release him, and he told him, "No, you're not going to release me, and here's why." And he told him exactly what he was planning to do if they released him. And they said, "Okay, let's call you back." And then sure enough, because I saw him at the gym, and he told me, I'm like, "They tried to release you because they're not supposed to be able to release you while you're hurt. They're not supposed to be able to do that, but they do what they want."
Right, and it's kind of that you hurt your foot and you're
In
in their
their ring,
system.
in their system.
In Right, and then it's the doctor botches it, and it's, "Oh, we're gonna release you." Well, hold on, buddy. Let me tell you something. It's
And
not
he
going.
had
We're not going that route right now.
right, he had the wherewithal to stand up for himself. And granted, he was in a different position where he could, but
Right.
I tried to stand up for myself. I did it in a different way. I tried to do it creatively, and I did the right thing. It just didn't work. I shot my own promos. I took initiative. Brought myself to TV and walked into Vince McMahon's office with a promo and a vignette and all of that. I had shot on my own and merch, and
Right. Spent
sat
your
down,
own money on it.
spent my own money. Right, sat down with Johnny Ace. He loved it, and the right creative people who saw it loved it and were like, "Can you do this?"
Hmm.
I'm like, "I've been waiting for you to let me do this." Sure enough, I get released a couple months later. Like, they loved it, then released me a couple months later. I'm like,
Yeah, it's that's terrible the
"But
way it
it's
happened. I
you
just,
know,
as somebody who's going. I mean, you've got. I hate that you got released, but
uh,
and they go through this cycle all the time. I mean, like today they did announce. I mean, I know I mentioned Ryback and Barrett. Well, Barrett's the one who was released. Ryback kind of just went home, and we'll see what happens. But like, I don't know if you know. So Santino got released to Cameron. Got released. Alex Riley, Hornswoggle, El
uh,
Torito, and Zeb Coulter. Mantel got released as
I
well.
was
Damian Sandow got released too.
wow, Sandow Riley, wow,
I don't know. So when I say any of those
oh,
names, man, what comes to your mind?
sheesh,
Because
man,
what I'm gonna do, I didn't tell you this before we met. I usually drop my shows on Tuesday.
yeah,
I'm just gonna do a special. I'm doing a special show today where I'm gonna drop it this weekend. Since you plugged your music at the beginning, that way you got all that going on. I wanted that to hit now because I got like 4 weeks of shows right now already recorded, but I wanted to get yours in, so I'm gonna drop two this week. So it kind of the timing worked out good where we could plug your music in. I'm like, all these releases today. Heck, Tyrone's been through that, man. I wonder what he
okay.
thinks about these names that got released.
Oh man, Damien, what a talent! They just
Yes, that's funny. I was hoping you said
what
that
a
because
talent!
that dude is talented. And I'm like, what?
Jeez, and but you know what though? I'm sure he doesn't have any regrets. I mean, how many years did it take him to get to WWE? And he was in OVW for years. And Aaron Stevens, the Idol. He was in, gosh, he was in OVW for so long, man. He was in Puerto Rico for a long time, and it
So
was
was he in OVW with you?
no. I
Okay.
came way
Weren't you there at the end of OVW?
at the very, very end, and I wasn't technically in OVW. I did my tryout
Okay.
there at OVW,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and
Okay.
I was supposed to be sent to OVW, and then that was when they transferred everyone to FCW from OVW in Deep South. So I was supposed to go
Uh,
to OVW, but I didn't actually go. But I did do my tryout there. But
Okay. I knew it was something. That's why I asked that.
he is amazing, amazing man. Such a man. But I mean, he's his career. Like, I'm sure he's not satisfied, but I'm sure he's not like bitter about it because he's already. It took him so long to even get there, and he had a really good run. Like, he could obviously could have been better. He should have been a champion, but but he had a really good run. Riley, on the other hand, let me tell you something. If there was ever a guy who was the next John Cena, it was Alex Riley. He was
Isn't
the
that crazy?
Yeah, he was the next John Cena. And the irony is, you know, I knew that when I met him. Like when I first met him, I lived with him. When I first moved to FCW, him and Jack Swagger. I actually lived with them when I first moved to Tampa to FCW. And
Really?
oh yeah, they're good friends with him. But they let me live with him. Like I was living in a hotel actually my first couple weeks, and when I was in FCW, and they let me live with him. First because they were really good friends. And
That's cool, man. I mean, the fact you got guys looking out for you and
oh yeah,
all for that. I mean, you always, I always look, when guys let you, I've crashed on a number of sofas
yeah,
during my indie days, and it's always appreciative because, man, hotels ain't cheap when you're on the road, dude.
man, they're not. They're not. Yeah, and all the little money I had left to move to Tampa, I spent it. But man, but Riley, I started seeing that with him, and when he first got to FCW, he had never wrestled before, and
Hmm.
man, this guy, man, fresh faced, good looking guy, extremely charismatic, articulate, talented, athletic, just green, and like the more and like Dusty saw it. I actually pulled Dusty aside. I'm like, check out Riley. He was like, really? I'm like, this. I would tell Kevin, this is his name. Kevin Kiley is his name. But we'd ride home from practice. I'm like, bro, you're the next Cena. He was like, get out of here. I'm like, no, you're the next Cena. Like, I see. I saw it before anybody saw it in
Yeah,
FCW. I would tell him that all the time. I'm like, you're the next Cena. Like you're the next guy. Like that's and me and Dusty would talk, and I would say like look at Riley. I said, okay. And Riley would do a promo. He was like, really? So then he started having him focusing on him more and more and more. Then basically started having him do promos where he was basically calling out Cena because he saw it. And then everyone started to see it. Like this guy, he's the next guy. Like this, wow, he's got that potential. And then, then they made him the FCW champ and they gave him the big push, and then he got the really good spot with the Miz with NX2 season two. Like, yeah, that was such a good spot, and he was outshining the Miz, and then behind the scenes, same thing happened to him. That happened to me, same person. And it just is what it is, Now this guy's in movies and
really. I
oh
never
yeah,
knew that about him.
yeah, same person. Same person got him that got me. And same
That
reason, but
sucks.
different circumstances. Like he knew that this guy was basically coming to walk in his footsteps. He knew. And God forbid you get the torch ready to pass it. So when you move on to start doing movies, that the business is maintained and you can come back. God forbid, no, just cut the legs off everybody else who's coming behind you who has the potential to at least touch the torch, let alone carry it. Cut their legs off from
Yeah,
under them, so that way, so your lane will forever be empty. But when you
yeah.
try to come back, there is no more lane, and the business doesn't move forward. That's just how the business works. So it is what it is. But Riley, man, and then I don't know. It's such a such a talented guy, man. It just amazing. Like and everyone that Santino's another one. Like that's good lord. And they just get bored with people really fast. They get bored with them, and you know,
I don't know why a company that is as big as them and has the budget that they have doesn't use people better. And what I mean by that is you got 3 hours of Raw and 2 hours of SmackDown every single week. That's a
5
lot of
hours
programming.
of wrestling.
5 hours. Now you and I grew up at a time. I forget how old you are, but I'm 40. You and
Same
I
age.
grew up at a time. Okay, that's what I thought. I couldn't remember. You and I grew up at a time in the territory days where you got 1 hour of pro wrestling a week.
Man,
And the reason I point that out is, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record for my listeners that listen every week, but you got you got a lot of TV time to fill. You have spots that the number one thing I hate when I hear wrestling fans say is, oh, the roster's not deep enough. They got all these. Shut up with
yeah,
that. You have no idea.
not
To make it to the WWE level, they have talent there. It is a matter of not using that talent
yep,
appropriately,
yep.
but they have deep talent. They have deeper talent than any of these wrestling fans who make that statement will ever believe.
Oh,
Now that's one thing for me to say it. Now I don't know. Do you agree with me when I say that? Or
100%, 1000%.
okay.
And there's so much talent there. But here's the thing. Again, they're like they're fair weather fans. Like they're just it's so sad because now what they're doing is they're trying to scoop up all the internet darlings they can. They're scooping up all the New Japan's top stars. They're scooping up all the Ring of
Hmm.
Honor's top stars. And now
Yep.
they're even going so far as Evolve. And I'm like, really? I had nothing against Evolve or the guys there,
No,
but
right.
like, that's where you're getting talent from? Really? And you got all of these guys, and you're going to like the end. Like, really? Like, okay, but at least,
Tyrone, history is repetitive in
yeah,
what they're doing right now. I said this on my show a few weeks back. To me, in my eyes, tell me what you think about this.
yeah,
Remember when Ben started like pillaging and the
all
talent
the talent.
from the territories?
Yep,
Like he went and got JYD and Ted DiBiase from Mid South, and he
yep.
went to Florida, and he went to Atlanta, and he started pulling his talent from all the or pulling the talent from the AWA. To me, it's cyclical and it's the same thing. Although we're not in the territories, that's exactly what's happening right now.
Well, he's trying to continue his monopoly on the business. And
Right?
even now, where you look at all the TNA guys are now NXT guys, or at least they make a cameo appearance.
Isn't that crazy?
Right. Now, who knows if
I
those
had
guys ever actually make it to the WWE? But as far as the main roster per se, they're at WWE. But but at
no,
NXT,
I know exactly what you mean.
yeah,
I interviewed Eric Young. Today's May 6th.
yeah,
This episode will drop in a couple days, hopefully this weekend.
right.
I interviewed Eric Young Monday night, May 2nd. Eric Young was our guest this week, who the exact thing you're talking about. So this guy's been in TNA and now he's on his route to NXT, and he is going to be, well, it would have aired at this point. But you're right, Samoa Joe. I mean, look,
He's the champ now.
TNA.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Where'd he come from? TNA.
TNA.
Austin Aries. He's not their champ, but
Yeah,
he came from TNA and ROH. So
yeah.
yeah.
And I was a huge. I'm happy for Eric Young. I was a huge fan. I think I've met him once. I'm sure I met him once, but I was always a huge fan of Eric Young. And I remember the Team Canada days. I used to be like him and Bobby Roode. Man, those two guys are gonna be big. Like, and I'm a huge fan of Bobby Roode. Love
Me
Bobby
too.
Roode. I'm huge. I told him I met him in Puerto Rico and told him. He was like, thanks, man. I've always been a huge fan of Bobby Roode. I thought that was a guy that if anybody could have went to WWE, it was Bobby Roode.
Yep.
But Eric Young is another one. He's just an amazing, consummate worker. Like his selling, just the way the effort he puts
Yes.
into details, small details every match. Every time I mean, just from Team Canada days, man. Like he was the one selling for everybody. Like he was just that guy was. I've always thought Eric Young was amazing.
He is well, I was about to say he's my favorite TNA guy, but
He was
he
yeah,
that guy is just he oozes just the charisma, the selling,
right,
the he is such a good heel. I mean, his facial expressions and mannerisms.
yeah, yeah.
I
I
mean, he
agree.
comes out and he plays that role so good, and I'm glad he's getting that opportunity with NXT at this point. He's just so darn good.
Yeah.
Um, just good for him. Hey, any chance, man? I did get a question last time you were on. Somebody asked me, so why have you maybe not landed with like a TNA or something? And if that's something that you would even want, it might not be something you want. As I say that, you may be satisfied with what you're doing. So,
Oh no, I'm
uh,
never satisfied. Let me say
okay,
that.
all
Never
right,
satisfied.
I hear you.
I tried. I have honestly tried. Never spoke on it much, but
Okay,
I have tried. I have definitely it's a matter of relationships. It is a matter of right time and right place, yes. But it's more so a matter of relationships in politics, to be honest with you. I walked into TNA. I tried, and I don't know another way to show a company or someone or somewhere that you want to be with them or a part of them than to walk up to them and tell them face to face. I don't know any other way.
Yeah.
And there was nobody knocking down doors trying to hire me. I remember when I first got released, and Dr. Tom Pritchard is a very good friend of mine. I love that man to death. And I guess he had a really good relationship with Jeff Jarrett. And when I first got released, I called him. I was like, I don't know what to do, but I was thinking about contacting TNA. Like, I'm lost at this point. I don't know what to do. And he said, well, I have a good relationship with Jarrett. I'll text him and contact him for you. And I said, okay, thank you so much. Sure enough, I emailed him. He sent me the email. I emailed Jarrett. I didn't expect him to respond. It was late at night. And I emailed him, closed my computer. The next day I had a photo shoot the whole day. And I get home at like 11 o'clock at night, open my computer. He responded like an hour later and,
Wow.
and wanted to meet me. I guess that day he was in Orlando filming something for a pilot for a show. I guess he was going to, I don't know, something he was about to try to start outside of TNA. And he wanted to meet me. I missed his email. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I emailed him back. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I had a photo shoot. I didn't see your email. Is there any way that we can meet? Never responded again. I'm like, oh, typical wrestler, whatever. So, that was that. And then I actually ended up getting in contact with him right before the global wrestling thing kind of kicked off when he was in Japan. And I contacted him on LinkedIn. I just said, whatever, we got nothing else to lose. And so I sent him a message, told him who I was. He responded. I was like, oh wow. I didn't expect you to respond, but okay, cool. So I told him what it was and everything. He said, I know who you are. I'm like, okay, cool. I said, hey, I see that, the GFW is about to kick off. I'm very interested, and I sent a pitch to him. Like, here's, perfect pitch. Like it's amazing how much I'm being slept on. Granted, I get, it's like a lot of legends, like in old school guys like me. They know, like they look at me, I see a lot of them. They're like, why did they release you? I'm like,
Right.
can you call them and ask them? Cause
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, a lot of them, they'll see me like, you are the one that was the most believable out of that group. Why did they release you? I'm like, it is what it is. But so I send them a pitch. I'm like, I was in a high profile storyline within the past 5 years. Haven't been on TV for anybody else. So anywhere I show up on TV, whoever's smart enough to pick up Michael Tarver, whenever I show up, it's going to be controversial. It's going to be somewhat of a surprise, and it's going to be intriguing. Enough time has passed since the controversy to kind of put mud on my name. So that way, when people see me, it's going to be somewhat refreshing, but people are still going to have that stigma. But the point is, I've become such a, what's the word I'm looking for? I've become such a, what is the word I'm looking for? Where people have an opinion. They're just going to have an opinion, no matter the word is escaping me. But
Right.
people are going to have an opinion. They're not going to say, snooze next. They're going to look at me and say, I hate that guy, but they're going to watch, or they're going to say, I thought that guy had something. I'm glad to see him. They're going to watch no
Right.
matter what.
Yeah. I got you.
Right. And I sent
No, they will.
and I told him, I'm like, this is perfect for GFW. Like I'm controversial just by being alive. So, people are going to want to wonder, why am I there? Sent him pictures, sent him matches, had a great story with Titan with, um, oh my gosh, I hate when, TCW and, 3-match series with Titan, great match series with Titan, send him some of those, send him that match and those matches and, even the Japan stuff and he's like, okay, cool. Keep sending me stuff. Keep sending me stuff. We can't communicate for like 3 months straight. Like, I told him, I apologize. I don't mean to be annoying. So no, I like the persistency. Keep sending me stuff. So I kept sending him stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm thinking, okay, all right, maybe. Because I met him when I was at TNA, when I went to visit TNA. I met him, shook his hand. I was like, okay, maybe this one might be the one who's smart.
Now, is it when you say you met him when you went to TNA? This is not when him and GFW came in last summer,
This
or
is
is it?
way before that. This is
Okay.
I wasn't there like officially. I just went and visited on my own.
Yeah. I got you. So this is a few years ago, not.
This is like 2012.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, I got
just-
you.
I
I
just-
was just trying to get a time frame on. I
Okay,
got
I'm sorry. Yeah. This 2012. I just went and visited on my own. Figuring
you. Okay.
maybe I can stir the pot, shake some hands. See who I can talk to, whatever. And
Yeah.
and but no, and it seemed the communication seemed to be going well. The next thing you know, they're announcing a roster online. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I mess them. So I see you're announcing your roster. Congratulations. Let you know I'm still interested. I have a lot to offer. It just takes someone to actually give me a chance to show you what I can do. No response. Okay, no problem. Now they're announcing the entire roster. Now they're announcing venues. Now they're announcing shows. I'm like, and I'm looking at the guys they're signing. I'm like, nothing against any talent. I never have nothing against any talent getting a shot. I want everybody to be able to eat. But at the same time, the competitive aspect of it is you're signing guys who haven't been on TV for a decade and guys who've never been on TV. And basically the remaining TNA roster. So you basically what you're doing is picking up guys who have never been, who no one knows. So when you turn on the TV, they're not going to be interested because no one knows who they are. And people who they've already seen on TNA, so they're going to look at your product as TNA Light. And a couple of WWE guys who he picked up who have been on WWE for hasn't been too long, but guys who are good guys like Brian Myers and Chris Masters and PJ Black, those are actually really good guys for him to pick up. I thought those were great, acquisitions. Because those are guys, people are going to see them like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But
right. I got you.
But again, nothing against anyone else he picked up at all. I'm happy for everybody, but I'm like, man, like, okay, why am I not good enough? Like, what is it about me? Like, that's, like I guarantee I can cut a promo better than anybody you got. Like, nothing against any of them, but you put me in
No,
the
you're
ring
just
with
confident in your abilities, right?
100%. There's nobody on the
Yeah.
planet I can't cut a promo with. You put Stone Cold
Right.
Steve Austin in the ring, I'll go toe to toe with him. Like, I know that I can. Like, Dusty Rhodes and Vince McMahon himself have put over my ability to talk. Nobody on the planet can tell me I can't talk. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, it is, and I know what I can do. But it's like, you never really, unless someone hears me talk, then they'll never know. But it is what it is, So I was like, okay, well, I guess, it is what it is. Wrestling is wrestling, pro wrestling.
Yeah.
But I've tried. Like it's not for any lack of effort why I haven't ended up at a Ring of Honor or somewhere. It's just, I even contacted Ring of Honor. I'm cool, very cool with Chris Hero, and he put me in touch with Delirious, and I texted him, sent him a message, left him a voicemail, say, hey, I'm very interested. I'd like to come out and check you guys, even though I know they don't really, they don't have a lot of money, and it is what it is. But I'm like, hey, I'd love to come and show you what I can offer. I like Ring of Honor, but I've always been a fan, blah blah. Never got a response. I'm like, okay, I'm not even good enough for you to respond. Okay, no problem. But you never know. You never know if he ever got the message or not. But it is what it is, But I don't hold it against. I was like, wow. Okay.
No, I hear you. It's a tough one because people that saw you, they figured at least you'd land on somebody's
somewhere,
TV.
right? Well, I tried.
I mean, I see guys who didn't have, as much time as that you had on TV that ended up with another chance somewhere, whether it be at ROH or TNA, and it's just, I don't know, man. I look at it like, this guy didn't get another chance. This just isn't right. I don't know what the deal is. It's
the
one of those
misconception
things.
of Michael Tarver can't wrestle. The sad thing is that the greatest wrestlers of all time it wasn't about their wrestling. I mean, with Bret Hart, yes, but it was just as much about his persona as it was about his wrestling.
Oh, we go down a rabbit hole with that one because
man.
I used to say it all the time, and Junkyard Dog, which was over as All Out. If you watching him in Mid South in New Orleans in the 80s was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Dog could not wrestle. I mean,
that wasn't what
he had a personality that was out of this world, and he got over based on that. But some of you better, I mean, even Dusty. Look, people
of all time.
People are gonna want to freaking just hate me for this, but Dusty, I don't remember him being the best like wrestler per se or in shape guy, obviously, but he got over because he was the most charismatic person ever. To me, at least. Now you knew him better than me, obviously, and I'm sure not that Dusty couldn't wrestle. I don't want.
No, he could wrestle, but he wasn't known to be the consummate technician.
There you go. That's the words I was looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Dean Malenko or Chris Benoit, any of those guys. He wasn't known for that. He wasn't
a technical Mozart, as I used to.
Right, exactly. But he didn't have to be, and that's and everyone's lane is for them. Dusty was one of the greatest personalities of all time, and he related to a particular group of people, and the timing was perfect. Where you had Ric Flair. They were the antithesis of each other. Yep. And Ric Flair was the flashy, stuck up, arrogant, flashy, high roller. Dusty Rhodes was the American common, hardworking blue collar, and they
Son of a
battled
plumber.
for a
Yep.
plus son of a plumber. They battled each other, and and it worked
Yeah.
perfectly. And you're missing that today. You're missing that today. You had that with Michaels and Bret Hart, where Shawn Michaels was the Ric Flair, the flashy, charismatic, sexy boy, ladies man. Bret Hart was the humble wrestler, straight to the core, straight to shoot from the hip, no nonsense, humble, Canadian wrestler. You had that with them. You don't have that anymore. Like you don't have that rivalry, or you don't even really have personalities so much anymore. And that's I can wrestle, like I'm very technical. Like you'd be surprised, I'm very technical, technically sound. That is, I'm not going to get in there and trade moves with the top technical guys who pride themselves on that. I'm not going to do that. And to be honest with you, I didn't. I decided not to go that route. As far as, for a while, I was trying to be the most technical wrestler I could be, and because I wanted to just disprove that whole notion that Michael Tarver can't wrestle.
Hmm.
So I realized that's not going to get me anywhere. No matter what I do, I can get in there and do the most beautiful technical chain wrestling sequence, but people are still going to look at me and say I suck because they were told to, they were programmed to. They're still going to say I can't wrestle no matter what I do in a ring because they
That's
were
right.
programmed to. But what I can do is I can break that programming by doing what I can do, which is my matches are disturbingly believable and extremely personal and emotional.
Hmm.
And I always have some kind of dramatic climax in a match that has absolutely nothing to do with wrestling. I find some part of the arena and use that as my prop to use that as basically the finish, or part of the finish, and it has to do with the match, and that's the climax of the match. But it's always that thing where people are like, man, when he took that chair and smashed it on the stage 20 times and flipped out for about 30 seconds and just, but people talk about that kind of stuff. I did that in Ebor. I did that with FIP, and I always pick a particular part of the wherever I am and have a moment that'll stand out among everything else. And no matter how many moves or how many dives, I take a chair and smash it on the stage 30 times, and then just basically have a mental breakdown in front of, and breaking the tears in front of everybody. They're gonna look at me like, what in the world was that? They're gonna be puzzled by it and confused by it. And then I tie it into the finish of the match and tie it into the story of the match. That's what sells tickets. And that's what I learned from Dusty Rhodes and Vince McMahon, but mainly Dusty Rhodes. Like that's what I learned. Go out there and do all the technical moves and dives and drop kicks, or tell a story and make my matches disturbingly believable. Like every strike, people think I'm stiff. And even people in the biz, they think I'm stiff because of the
Hmm.
way I work. And I'm like, wow, like you just don't even know. Like there are certain things I'm very snug with, yes. But for the most part, I'm very light, because I also know that the workers are also marks. So we're also marks. And we'll look at guys and, oh, he's stiff. I don't want to work with him. I'm like, well, maybe you're
Right.
being worked. Maybe I'm just as light as you are. Maybe I'm lighter than you are. And I just
Pro,
look stiff because that's what I'm supposed to do.
pro wrestling ruins you because then everything in life ends up
Everything
being a
is
work too.
everything.
Every like I can't believe, man, I sit there and watch pro sports now and I swear the NFL and NBA is all a work.
Oh,
I
yeah, a
can't
lot of it is. they,
I can't see there you
they
it's
can't
like
tell me that there's just not some part of it that's not a work.
right. It's like, oh, it's a work. It's and I get told all the time by my co-host. He's like, man, you think everything's a work. I'm
Because
like,
it
you have
is.
no clue. It's like the wrestling business, it destroys you. You think everything. You look at life and go, the world is a work.
Yeah.
And it's so it just kind of messes things up. But no, I hear you when you say that. It's like it's true because the boys end up being the main ones that end up being, worked by other workers. It's a
Oh,
it's a crazy continuum that happens.
oh yeah. And the
Yeah.
sad thing is, a lot of guys, they'll see me, and and they just, even like, it's like I learned a lot. Like X-Pac told me I'm really cool with him, and he told me a couple things um in the past couple years, because he was, I don't know if he still lives in Tampa or not, or even in the area, but he would be at a lot of the indie shows that I was on, and he would watch me. And he was like, dude, he was one of the guys who were like, why did they release you? I'm like, it is what it is. He's like, you really
You should
good.
get tired of answering that question, right?
Uh-huh, yep. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, you get it. Like, you really get it. I'm like, hey, I'm not, it's not up to me, but But he was like,
Right.
just he would say, just one of the things, great advice. He said, be likable. He said, don't, it doesn't matter how good you are, be likable. Be someone that people want to work with.
Yeah.
Be enjoyable to work with. And I'm like, it resonated in so many ways. Whenever I approach a match, it doesn't matter who it is. I always approach them and we figure out what the story finish of the match is first. But I, tell them, all right, what do you want to do? I'm easy. I'll do whatever you want to do. Let's just find a way to tell a story in it. Whatever you want to do. There's certain things I'm not comfortable with, but pretty much I'll try to do anything. But I make the person feel like it's their match.
Right.
No matter who's going over, whether it's me or them, and I sell for them, and I tell them, I'm gonna try to make you look the best that I can. I'm gonna sell for you as much as I possibly can. People appreciate that, and then
Right.
they break down those mental blocks that they have that's been stationed in their brains. That it's like, man, wow, like this is awesome. I haven't had, like, for example, the way I book like my matches. We set the finish, and I tell them, give me a couple things you like to do. This is the kind of things I like to do. We come up with a story. I'm like, all right, let's just put together a timeline. Let's not memorize. Let's put together a timeline, and let's just have fun. Let's just react to each other. Tell them,
Okay.
trust me. I'm going to sell for you, make you look the best I can, and I'll give them the story. And like, wow, so many guys I've worked with, like, man, I haven't had a match like this in a long time where we just went out and just worked. Everyone wants to memorize a million spots. I'm like, man, I'm so excited about this. Then after the match, I'm like, I haven't had this much fun in so long. Like, it's cool to just go out there and work and have fun. I'm like, because that's what it should be when you're trying to memorize a bunch of spots. Yeah, there's time for putting a little bit more into your match depending on where you are, but you still have to work, and
Mhm.
it still has to be fun or should be fun. But yeah, he gave me that advice, and so now I approach every match like, whatever you want to do, let's have fun, let's make it fun, let's try something. These are the ideas that I have. What do you like to do? I will try to do everything that you want to do, and we'll just have fun. Let's put it in the timeline and so we'll give each other, codes. So when you're ready for it, I'll know that you're going for it, and I'll work my way to it or put myself in
Right.
position
Right.
for it instead of trying to memorize it. So let's just work the crowd.
Yeah.
It's just more fun that way. But
Yeah, it is. I hate it trying to memorize. Oh God. You
I'm
got
not a big fan of it. And I'm not against it. I'm just not a big fan of it. But
yeah.
you think about
It's
those things, man, like with Byron and a lot of like guys getting released, and the best thing that ever happened to him and me and a lot of guys, Ryback, guys, it was getting released and losing that opportunity. Like I'm light years better than when I was when they released me, and I was on my way then. I was really like really getting really good, and they were
yeah.
putting guys and polishing guys up. It was a couple times I had a couple matches with Roman Reigns. A couple of those guys I had matches with Big E. They married me to him for a while. I love him to death. Even Roman Reigns. I love Roman Reigns, but they were using me to help polish guys, because they knew I was good.
Right.
I'm light years ahead of where I was then, but it takes that kind of situation to break you down. But as far as why I didn't land somewhere, I just look at it as, you look at Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, him and I don't really have anything in common except for the fact that he knew beyond any doubt what he could do. And when you watch his promos at ECW, you could see it in his eyes. Like you could just see how sure of himself he knew. And he knew he was Stone Cold Steve Austin before he knew he was Stone Cold Steve Austin. He
Yep.
knew. And I remember watching this DVD and I thought, wow, that's my story. Him and I have nothing in common. We met once. We have nothing in common. He probably wouldn't remember me if he saw me or even care. But, I just am so inspired by him because I feel like his story is my story as far as wrestling is related. Like I know what I can do. And,
Yeah.
it's just all I need is a mic. Just turn it on and I will wow you. Like
Yeah.
I will surprise you, or move you or some way. And I do it without cutting wrestling promos. I don't Everything I do is so non-wrestling. Everything I do in wrestling is so non-wrestling. That's what makes it different. But
Yeah.
the time,
Well, the thing is like, okay, so back in the day when Stone Cold Steve Austin gets released from WCW
yeah,
and then ends up, in ECW doing the promos and then ends up in WWE, the difference between him and you
yeah,
or anybody who's been released from the WWE since then is the platform change, meaning that you didn't have now Ring of Honor and TNA are come. I mean, at least they're there, but they're not on the same level as WWE, where those talents can't end up going to another company that's just as big or bigger to show what they can do.
Right.
And that's unfortunate. Now, look, I know Ring of Honor is growing, but
Yes.
it's not on the WWE level.
Right.
And TNA is definitely not on the WWE level, and there's nothing against them because I want there to be more companies where guys can work because it's
Oh,
just better for professional wrestling.
me
But
too.
when people look at Austin and they go, "Oh yeah, well, hey, those fans that are around today that don't remember when he was released,
Oh
like
man.
you and I do, and don't remember it took him a while before he became Stone Cold
Oh,
Steve Austin. They
years.
don't they don't get that. Well, like I've never told you this. He was my trainer and my mentor's first tag team partner. Him and
Uh,
Rod Price. I don't know. Do you know who Rod Price is
I've
from
heard the
Global
name.
Day?
I've heard the name. Yeah.
Okay, so Rod and Austin were tag team partners in Global and in USWA. Um,
Wow.
you can go look at it. They're on the network right now. They've uploaded all kind of the old matches, and Rod is on there with them.
Oh,
And Rod talks about it all the time with me when I talk to him because I've had him on the show. Obviously, we're friends. We talk all the time. I've had him on the show a bunch of times. He goes, man, he says it's a matter of timing with the guys who get the big break. It's a matter. There's so many things that have to happen for you to get that big break. And there's so many talented guys that never got that big break
yeah.
that you never heard of. It doesn't mean they're not talented. It just means that they wrong place. They weren't in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And it's sad, but it's true. Hey, you give me a lot of time, Tyrone. I don't want to have you here all night, but
That's all good.
man, nah, man, we're rolling into this thing. Man, you got anything else you want to plug with the music stuff or anything else that you got going on? Just personally or wrestling, music related, anything, man. Go ahead and plug it, and I'll
Oh,
get this episode wrapped up and get it out there in the next day or so.
sure. Yeah, I just released I appreciate it. I just released Weaponized on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Music, um, cdbaby.com. I just released Reload on noisetrade.com. It's a free download. You can donate if you want to, but otherwise it's a free download. I will be releasing another free download and another album at the end of the summer. Other than that, man, just really, really focusing on powerlifting. Training for a competition in July and one in August, and chasing a 2,000 pound total in equipment, a geared powerlifting equipment, so I can get elite status, and then go from there to a 2,300 pound total, so I can get pro status and actually get paid to powerlifting. Hopefully, get some
There you
sponsorships
go.
or something. But I'm I'm making my way. I'm getting there. It's just a matter of
You're doing
consistency.
good, man. I see the posts on Instagram and on Twitter, man. You pushing through, man. That's all you can do, right?
That's all you can do, man. Yeah, I'm working on it, and that wrestling, it comes. And I've had a couple conversations with some people, and it's just a matter of I guess allowing things to happen. And I know that when whoever that company is, whatever that company is, decides, well, let's see what Michael Tarver can actually do, then finally, everyone's gonna be able to, like, okay, that's what that guy can do.
Yeah,
'Cause unfortunately, my trip to Japan just didn't really tell a story, and I wasn't. I was in a match that I couldn't really shine in, and I was
yeah,
very happy for it. Like, I loved New Japan, and I would go back anytime they called. It just
yeah,
wasn't. It wasn't. I was there to do what I was supposed to do. It wasn't a match that I can go out there and, like, go crazy in, because it was part of a story. And I was just happy to be there, and I was doing what I was paid to do. That was really that simple. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
yeah,
12 years of wrestling. We'll see. Other than that, man,
yeah.
music, powerlifting, man, and you know, doing the best I can.
I hear you now. You just good things happen to good people is my always my motto. It doesn't always happen on our time. That's the thing.
Indeed.
We gotta remember. It's always on his time, not ours. That's just that's part of life. But no, man, I appreciate you doing the show. Like I say, I usually drop all my episodes on Tuesday, and when we first connected earlier in the week, and we've been talking about getting you back on, it just was fitting that you got the different music releases happening right now and
Yeah.
album releases, and then today out of the blue, I swear I didn't plan this because I don't know WWE's about to release a bunch of people,
Yeah. Right.
but
Yeah.
that was I knew when I saw Sandow and Barrett, and well, mainly Barrett in the whole Ryback situation, I was like, oh, this some stuff that I know Tyrone can definitely contribute to from a discussion standpoint because he's been in that boat. I had no clue about Alex Riley. I didn't know that you knew him that well. No idea whatsoever.
He was supposed to be that dude, man. That guy. Wow.
You can see it. You can see it.
Yeah.
You can see it when he walks out on the TV. I mean, you've been in wrestling long enough where you can look at a guy, and some guys you look at and go, that dude's got it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 But
Or even girl. I'll never forget the first time I saw. My listeners are gonna say, "Shut up, Mike. You always talk about her."
Ooh.
First time I saw Sasha Banks on TV, I was like,
Okay.
"She got it.
Oh, yeah.
There is something there
Yeah.
that girl, that woman has that people don't just get. She's got it."
I agree. I
That
100% agree about
um
Sasha Banks.
and and it's same with Alex Riley. I remember seeing him when the first time I saw him years ago. I'm like, that dude's got something.
Yeah.
And just now he's gone, which is Sandow too. You look at him and go, he might not be world champion material, but you can't tell me when you look at him the first time you see him and he's doing his act, you can't tell me that dude doesn't have something, and now he's gone. So
He's amazing.
oh, it's crazy, man. But hey, man, I appreciate it, Tyrone. Thank you as always for your time, man. Hey, hang tight while I stop this thing, but I'm gonna stop it because I want to talk to you about something else off the record, not recording. So I'm gonna stop this thing now.
Oh, no problem. No problem at all.
Hey, that's a wrap for this week's special edition of Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast. I hope you enjoyed my discussion with Michael Tarver, formerly of the Nexus in the WWE a few years back, and his expertise on the topic of being released because, as you know, he is no longer with the WWE, and he lended us some of his thoughts on just pro wrestling nowadays and how things work in the WWE and the guys that were released and his thoughts on Ryback. It was a great discussion. Hopefully you appreciate, or not appreciate, but hopefully you enjoy the episode and us pulling this together. I was going to hold the episode for a few weeks like I normally do whenever we pre-record, but hey, I hope you enjoyed the fact that we released it on this Friday. Make sure you send us feedback on the show. Email the show, bookingtheterritory@gmail.com. Send us feedback on Twitter @BTT_podcast. And don't forget, follow us on Twitter as well @BTT_podcast. And give us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/booking the territory. We'd appreciate it. That is going to wrap it up for this week's episode. Oh, I'm sorry, our special edition episode. Check out our normal weekly episode this week where we had on WWE NXT star Eric Young, who has just left TNA. Me and Michael Tarver discussed Eric Young briefly in the episode tonight, and you heard him give Eric Young he gave a lot of praise to Eric Young and what he thought about his work and everything that he can do. And next week's episode on Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Central Time, that will drop is with Cowboy Johnny Mantell, who is the head right now of the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Wichita Falls. That's pwhf.org, the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Wichita Falls. Make sure you check it out. They got a big thing coming up in at the end of May 20th and 21st with this year's Hall of Fame. Gene Okerlund going in, Stone Cold Steve Austin going in, just to name a couple that will be going into the Hall of Fame. So we got Cowboy Johnny Mantell coming up this week on the normal Tuesday edition of Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast. Doc Turner, Hardbody Harper and I will be back to discuss all of the news as well with WWE Raw, anything that goes on related to Ring of Honor, which is pay-per-view tonight that is taking place, and the TNA news from the week. So, and anything else that breaks in between now and then. So hopefully you enjoyed this edition. Send us your feedback. Send us your thoughts. Thanks as always for tuning in. We could not have this podcast without you. So we appreciate all of your support for Booking the Territories Pro Wrestling Podcast. And before I forget, if you haven't already done so and you want to support the show, check us out when you go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Booking the Territory. Click the Shop Now button. That's where you can get your very own Booking the Territory podcast tee. And when you click the Shop Now button, make sure when you are checking out and buying a t-shirt or two, because you can get them at any color that you want, make sure when you're getting your t-shirt, you use promo code SHIRTOID OID20. That is shirt OID20 to get 20% off of your Book in the Territory apparel order. We got t-shirts, we got hooded sweatshirts, we got long sleeves t-shirts, we got baseball tees. You name it, we got it. Check it out. Hopefully, you'll get one or two. And if not, hey, go look in the store and see what we have. And if you like one, buy one. Other than that, this is Mike. We will catch you next on Tuesday night for our normal showtime. And until then, as Hardbody Harper always says before we get out of here, book it.